Brine scorched my vision as I woke on a massive float, encircled by 99 college girls. My entire art history seminar was present, including Professor Elena, 100 souls, and I was the only guy. Before I could process the nightmare, a frigid, booming voice shattered the silence, echoing inside our skulls. Welcome to the raft survival trial. Your deck spans a single classroom. Each vessel requires one captain. The captain wields absolute authority. If he dies, this entire craft and every passenger sinks into the abyss. Scavenger die. Construct by day when night falls. Terrors from the deep surface to hunt. Monthly tides shift, with a killer tsunami striking weekly. If you encounter another vessel, murder their leader to seize their essence. My stomach turned as the savage reality of this game sank in. I expected screams, but the women weren't terrified. They were buzzing with excitement like it was a spring break trip, treating a death trap like an Instagram getaway. I checked my stats and I was the captain. Fantastic. If my heart stops, all 99 of them follow me down into the dark. Elena took charge instantly. At 28, she looked striking in a sharp, tailored white button-down. Between the sleek black skirt and silk stockings, her professional elegance felt laughably wrong for a survival situation. Still, her icy stare and clinical poise proved she was built to manage a catastrophe. Quiet, everyone. Panic is a death sentence. Face this reality and let's work together to survive. State your unique talents now. Elena led. She was a doubles tear master strategist. She could analyze hidden data and process info 3 times faster than any human. A biological supercomputer. Then Lily, a shy bookish nerd, raised a shaking hand. She possessed a rank runic prophecy. Forecasting our daily luck was her gift. Standing right beside her was her twin sister, Luna. She a short-haired fighter drawing a blade, a rank spectral duelist. I'm the sword and the shield, she declared. From the rear, the gorgeous, spoiled Harisclo stepped forward, clutching a pulsing, glowing orb. The satyr dragon girl. In 10 days, I'll hatch a monster and merge with its ancient power. Even little Sophie joined the line. The cute pigtail girl looked like she'd been snatched right from the bath. She held up an arm slick with bubbles. I've got Brank's sphere projection. I create shields and provide 60 minutes of air underwater, surprisingly useful, given the circumstances. Suddenly, 99 sets of eyes locked on me, the leader, the only man. I opened my menu. Triples tier perk, Colossus Heart, every day spent surviving grants a permanent boost to my physical endurance. Infinite scaling, eventually, I could crack tectonic plates. But before I could enjoy it, another mechanical notification rang in my head. Imperial Heritage Protocol online. Produce an heir to trigger the duplication glitch. Convert any single item into an endless supply. A single bottle of water becomes a lake. One loaf of bread creates a permanent factory. In a salt-choked world of hunger, I was a god. I cleared my throat to share the truth. My talent is called Bloodline Legacy. If I father a child, I can replicate resources forever. Total stillness. It felt like the ocean itself had suddenly stopped breathing. Jaws drop, every girl's eyes widened. Did he seriously just suggest making a baby? Top-tier supplies tied to reproduction. It took 12 seconds for the collective shock to wear off. The group erupted. Oh my, unlimited food. Is he for real? We would never starve. The catch, we have to help the captain continue his line. Instantly, nearly 100 stunned looks shifted into something much more intense and predatory. Ravenous gazes locked on. The brainier grew thick, charged, and heavy with desire. Friends huddled in low whispers while Elena turned crimson and scowled. Pride hammered in my chest. Who wants to be the hero who triggers our first batch of endless water? Any volunteers? We were trapped on a flat deck with no walls, so things remained somewhat civil for the moment. I warned them I'd feed them to the sharks if they slacked off. That put the princesses in their place. Grabbing their crude poles, they began to work. For now, the ocean stayed hauntingly quiet. The sea yielded only trash and terror. I looked at Lily. Hey, give it a shot, show us your luck, I teased. She flushed. Clutching a frayed bag, she shut her eyes and started praying. God, please make it big. I nearly choked right then. The crowd roared, tossing out filthy jokes and cheap shots. Shaking with shame, Lily found cover when Luna drew her blade. The moment the gem appeared, Lily's face went ghost white. Total disaster, a death omen. We needed cover before dark. Panic set in. We scrambled like demons to survive the night. Dusk hit with only 200 planks build. I ordered. Wood snapped together, forming a crude box like a coffin. Darkness filled the 8x5 meter room. Everyone inside. Now, lock it down. 100 people crammed into 40 square meters. Bodies crushed together. The air grew thick with heavy sweat. Elena and Luna shoved me center, pinning me between them. Lily clung to me. I showed our meager 10 waters. 30 stale rolls went around, one sip and bite each. I nudged the last bit toward Lily's lips, smirking. Each she froze, her eyes wide with total shock. Jealous cackles filled the room until the awkward moment ended. Luna shoved the bread home, ending the joke, then blackness. We were a mess of limbs when a blast rocked reality. The floor pitched hard, like a titan took a bite. Screams erupted as the gale roared and waves hit hard. A terrified girl grabbed me, sobbing about ancient spirits. They are here. We looked through the cracks, hearts stopping. A massive, bloody eye with a slit pupil peered through. It scanned us like cattle before the dark jaw opened. A mile-wide grin stretched into a jagged nightmare. A silent reaper grating his harvest. One breath and Chial's. Sobbing echoed. Elena went white, her nails digging into me. Luna drew steel. Everyone swarmed me, seeking any shield. Suffocating, I used my titan strength to hold my ground. I stared back. The walls held, but waves were coming. This box was a coffin. We needed a real ship. We needed a warship. Dawn finally broke through the fog. A shadows fled. I stood up, my spine popping like gunfire. My strength surged. I felt invincible. I kicked the door open. They looked like ghosts. Elena called to check our powers. Sophie blew a huge pink bubble, lifting a girl up. She drifted, screaming, until it popped and dropped her. Laughter eased the fear. Chloe was next, looking mortified. Shyly, she sat and tucked the dragon egg under her hem. She sat frozen, looking like a broody hen on its prize. Fun over, back to work. By noon, Lily's luck flipped. The graphite rod groaned as I dragged a rusted iron trunk from the pitch-black ocean. What was inside? 50 wood planks, moldy crusts, and a blueprint. I scrapped the junk to light the forge. My digital interface flickered on, showing the stove sink and water filter. Vital gear, but we were broke. No salvage, no plastic, no prayer. After a brutal shift, the crew hauled in just 3 minnows and 5 crackers. Night hit like a brick. Hunger burned like fire while the walls closed in. I hung a sheet over my bunk by the dying coals. I started the grim math. 100 portions, barely a thimble of water each. Dry throats struggled to swallow. Hollow eyes haunted the fire. A raspy voice broke the silence, supposing. The well runs dry. 99 starving souls locked eyes with me. They looked like animals. The thin mask of society was rotting away. My heart raced. Shut up and sleep, I barked, retreating to my room and snapping the curtain shut. Outside, claws ripped through wood, followed by a scream like a dying spirit. I stared into the void. I wasn't sleeping. I was waiting for my chance. I needed a soul near the edge. Power is all about owning the means of survival. The curtain twitched. A pale hand reached through, smelling of expensive, faded flowers. Bathed in moonbeams, Elena stood there. Her face flushed with a deep, desperate red. She bit her lip until it bled, her voice nothing more than a panicked whisper. Silas, please, we have to discuss the water situation. Talk hardly, this was a business deal, plain and simple. I lunged forward, seizing her shaking wrist and pulling her into the shadows. Her breath hitched, the sound trapped within the tiny room. Her soft weight slammed against my chest, knocking the wind out of me. The drapes fell, the only sound left was 2 hearts pounding like drums. She froze, I held her tight, whispering with a jagged grin, Professor, want to make a deal one night with me, and the whole class drinks tomorrow. Don't I do this, she breathed, her dignity finally cracking apart. And let them starve, let's be real about what you're actually worth here. That cold truth broke her. She closed her eyes, her fight vanishing into the dark. My fingers brushed her silk shirt, feeling her heart fluttering like a trapped bird. I moved in to seal the bargain. Suddenly, a hellish roar, louder than anything before, shattered the air. The deck tilted 45 degrees. Elena flew across the room, hitting the wall hard. The tension died instantly. She looked at me with pure, wide-eyed terror. I'm sorry, Silas, I can do this, not like this. She vanished like a ghost. I sat there in the blackness, vibrating with rage. Filthy monsters, they just ruined the best leverage I've ever had. I'm gonna gut them. By dawn, the group was back on the lines. Lily reached into the loot bag, pulled out a gem, and forgot to breathe. She nearly fainted as she shrieked at the top of her lungs. Captain, the lucky one, the fate rune. The other girls were too drained to move. I grabbed the stone, pure luck. Our nightmare was finally turning into a jackpot. Stop staring and move it, I roared. Get those hooks back in the water. By noon, the entire raft was buried under a mountain of fresh wood. Debris and fresh water were stacked high while massive fish strained our nets. The exhaustion in my marrow vanished, overtaken by wild, desperate cheering on deck. I worked the forge, melting down scrap to build a massive heating stove. The rich, savory steam snapped our starving minds back into the present moment. One bowl of that liquid gold ignited a spark in our frozen, hollow chests. Strength returned to my limbs, but the navigation logs told a much darker story. Location, the Shadow Gale. We were drifting straight into the heart of hell. Zero supplies and hungry monsters were the only things left in this wasteland. If not for Lily's sheer, unadulterated luck, we would already be under the waves. I ran the numbers, upgrade this tub tonight or prepare for a watery grave. The girls worked those ropes like their very souls depended on every single inch. By mid-afternoon, Elena pulled me aside, her gaze shifting with a heavy, nervous weight. She whispered my name as a crimson flush crept up her soft, trembling face. Ignore yesterday, I just haven't spent much time around men like you before. Slowing things down, one look told me she was just buying herself more time. Trap, I just gave her a tiny smirk and a slow, reassuring head tilt. Sure, Elena, but if we were moving this slow, you should at least relax. At least let me see some legs, she gave a faint, shaky nod. There she sat, all elegant lines and soft skin, looking like a total hallucination. I knelt to massage her calves, telling her she had been pushing herself too hard. She trembled as I touched her, the tension in the room thick enough to swallow. As I moved closer, the curtain suddenly tore open with a sharp, violent crash. Chloe burst in shouting my name, then froze like she had been turned to stone. Her gaze pinned my hand right where it was, gripping Elena's silk-covered thigh. After a heartbeat of silence, she yelled she was blind and had seen nothing. Don't mind me, she vanished, leaving Elena trapped in a wave of pure embarrassment. She bolted out of the room instantly. I just sank back and exhaled deeply. Stepping onto the deck, I stood over our scrap and initiated the construction sequence. Burn 1,800 units of timber timber and iron to force the vessel to evolve. A blinding light erupted as the wooden planks tore apart and forged something new. Massive steel bulkheads rose from the deck, finally making me feel somewhat safe. With the upgrade complete, the world notification sparked a wild celebration from the crew. The global chat was a madhouse. Apparently, a few lucky souls had found land. People fought for scrap while some guy named Chad was lording over everyone. Suddenly, a crimson alert slashed across the screen, drowning out every other message. Reach rank 5 before the surge hits. Only the top 3 survivors get everything. God tier crates and legendary gear that could turn a beggar into a literal god. The girls went white. In this watery tom, we were already as good as dead. All those terrified faces turned toward me as I watched the timer bleed out. Failure isn't an option. Once trading starts, the real bloodshed begins on the market. I will trade my surplus water for their gold, a quiet move before a finish. Looking at those desperate people, a cold, predatory hunger started burning in my soul. That reward is already mine, no debate. Then the sun finally dipped away. The new iron plating held strong, finally letting the girls sleep without any nightmares. Elena lingered near the glowing coals, her long shadow stretching deep into the void. She stood frozen, teeth digging into her lower lip while her gaze drilled straight through me. Look, Silas, hitting level 3 opens the trade hub. If we torch your gear, we might just survive this wave. She looked like she was coiled to strike. Suddenly, she hit the floor, whatever it takes to save them. I am your weapon, Captain. Be gentle, she rasped, but in the space of a single heartbeat. The sky tore wide with a deafening crack. A blinding gold light stabbed the dark. My guts twisted. Damn it, this horror show all over again. I ripped back the cover. Chloe's egg sat right at the center of the kiosk. That shell was cracking apart, spitting fire and heat. Chloe was just sitting there, trembling. Drenched in sweat, she started seizing as that thing drained the very soul out of her. It is draining her dry, Elena shrieked, her face turning ghost white. Stay away, I roared. That energy is evolving just to survive the gale. If I did not act now, she was gone. I lunged forward and sat right across from her. Grabbing her wrists, I channeled every ounce of my spirit into her empty shell. Time seemed to stand still for hours. Finally, the first morning rays broke through. Snap, the casing turned to ash. This tiny glowing thing slithered out. A miniature dragon wreathed in gold sparks started to drift in the air. It circled Chloe once before those cold, reptilian eyes locked onto me. With a high-pitched chirp, it turned into a golden blur and slammed into my chest. It started nuzzling my cheek like a pup. I checked my stats, heart hammering. My stomach did a flip. I had hit level 9, but I was completely spent. Then a glowing notification flashed, new ability unlocked. Dragon Knight's rank, soulbound to the hatchling. Note, you traded your essence for it. You are officially the Dragon Father now. Fantastic, I am a dad. Still a huge win. Then out of nowhere, Chloe tackled me. She sobbed into my chest, and then the whole team piled on. Give me some space, I joked, managed a grin. I am not in the grave yet. Once we had eaten, I caught Lily's eye. Hey, dreamer. Time to pay up. She flushed bright red, digging through her gear. Bingo, the rock hit the table with a heavy thud. Just like that, absolute luck took over. The girls started pulling in resources like mad. The take was massive. Wood and steel were practically raining down on us. By dusk, I gave the order, toss the junk, level the ship to 3. After a whiteout flash, the deck expanded. The global market was finally live. Screens flared to life, showing gear and blueprints from across the seas. Then the whole deck went silent in this wasteland. We were penniless. Everyone looked at Elena. She turned beet red as the light began to fail. 99 women huddled in the dark hold, wide awake and scared to death. I took Elena by the hand and led her straight to my quarters. The door clicked shut. It was pin drop silent, save for my racing heart. Eventually, muffled crying drifted out. Lily looked away. Luna cursed under her breath. Zoe whispered to the others while I pushed through that night until the sun rose. I dragged myself out at noon, totally drained, and pulled up the status window. Conception failed. You have got to be kidding me. I had killed myself for this, burned every last drop of juice, and ended up with 0. I snatched Elena inside the moment she crossed the door, fury pulsing through me, shutting out the terrified whispers. I dragged her in and slammed the deadbolt home. Zoe stood paralyzed in the brutal heat. That afternoon, our reality finally broke apart. We raged till sunset. She eventually emerged trembling, white-knuckling the door for support. Relief flooded her face. I collapsed, eyes fixed on the blinking screen notifications. My pulse hammered. Elena was pregnant. Not with one child, but with twins. 2 infinite items, the ultimate score. The endless grind had finally paid off. I burst from the shadows, grabbing water. Finalize the trade now, I ordered. My stockpile hit 199,000. I was drowning in liquid wealth. Done. A single quiet second passed before our entire world went to hell. 100 women lost control, swarming me just to feel my skin. I summoned a wall of water. They attacked the supply like starving predators. Pure adrenaline, I roared. Put the cups down and start making your bids. I offered 100 units for 400 metal. Everything sold instantly. Panic drove their hands. I kept trading for raw timber and scrap plastic. Resources poured in. We even netted a legendary golden trout for the meal. A single bite sent fire through my veins. My physical power jumped 10 points. Level 20 perfect. Every bit of my bone deep exhaustion vanished in seconds. I felt strong enough to break a bull. Time to upgrade this vessel. 4th tier raft. It expanded into a floating fortress the size of a ball court. A tower climbed toward the sky. I pointed at the master plans on deck. I yelled to the crowd. Everyone is armed with a crossbow by dawn. Day 3, the baby creature licked me awake. I walked out to the bow. I spent my credits on weapon parts. A blinding white flash seared my vision. We gave 99 high-grade weapons and thousands of bolts to the whole crew. I pulled Elena close and announced, the doctor is gonna have a baby. She's having twins. Total silence fell before the whole deck went crazy. The women gathered with warm tea, treating her like a piece of fine porcelain. During the war prep, Sophie found a glowing blue ancient book of spells. Charges strike, a miracle find, a 1-minute power-up for triple the damage. They handed it over. Zoe buckled on her iron plates, looking like a tank. 10 hours until the wave. Night fell over the ocean like a lead sheet. The women bathed behind wooden screens, their laughter drifting across the black water. My heart was thumping. Once they finished washing, everyone tried to find sleep. I gripped Elena's arm. We have to drill our combat movements this minute. I led her away through the grumbling. Then, the clock struck midnight. A sub-zero wind cut through the air, freezing our very blood in place. The deck groaned. Something was savagely shredding the timber from deep underneath us. Crimson eyes watched from the floorboards. The emergency sirens began their piercing scream. That bastard Poseidon, the wall of water was hitting us way too early. Kill the beasts or die, good luck. My heart turned to pure stone. That god is a lunatic. Get up, everyone on your feet, I thundered. The wave is here. I kicked the door open, my blade already drawn. Frigid swells battered us. 16-foot walls of water brought the nightmares on board. Multi-leg horrors and mangled, pale corpses began crawling over the ship's side. A poisonous blue light pulsed deep within the oily black sludge. The heart of the storm. Stick to your posts or we're dead. Pivot to the flanks. Tear their high command to pieces now. Let it loose, shielded in iron. I dove into the meat grinder. Shadows danced as she struck. Sophie unleashed a volley of glowing fire. Those winged freaks hit a wall. Fire. 100 arrows hissed. A metal hail shredded them. Notifications flooded my brain like cold rain. 0 hour arrived. A massive, star-shaped nightmare slammed onto the deck. Get the sender. Bury your blade in that giant, staring eye. A scream echoed. I inhaled sharply, feeling pure adrenaline hit my soul. Max power. I launched myself like a slug from a railgun. A 30-foot blade of fire cut the dark. Go to hell. The monster cracked open. Its central eye burst with a deafening bang. 3 minutes left. Finish them. My team saw nothing but red. We broke their final surge as the clock died. Everything went quiet. The tide calmed. The swarm vanished, leaving a literal graveyard behind. Blood soaked the plank's victory. The blue heart floated into my grip. I bet it all on this level 5 vessel upgrade. Do it. Blinding white fire erupted. The raft twisted, remaking itself in the heat. Instantly, our pile of junk became a massive iron-clad warship. The sea shook. An alert flashed. We just took the world first. Number 1, 100 survivors stood there, stunned by the wind. Then the noise hit, sobbing, and laughter broke out in the chaos. Against every single odd, we had actually taken the lead. At 10 in the morning, the system roared our names out. Global first confirmed. 3 epic vaults unlocked. The internet went insane. The pros were losing it. Rig, how did these nobodies win? The competition was rotting with jealousy. This can be happening. Epic loot, unfair. But the survivors just screamed right back. The tide came early. We literally waded through corpses to get here. I blocked the noise, staring at 3 chests dripping with magic. My pulse hammered. Check the seals. Tell me what's inside. She prayed silently. Please let this be it. The latch clicked. Maximum luck triggered. I pulled the lid. Purple fire scorched my face. A tattered scroll lay within. The map of the 4 seas. The keys to the kingdom. This was our way out of hell. Next box, a tomb-bound and forbidden dark energy. Shadow call. It brings up 100 killers from the abyss. It cost a piece of my mind. I gave it away. She was built for this. She learned the spell, turning pale. She signaled the water. Suddenly, the entire ocean began to boil. 300 armored monsters rose up, their blades shining in the dark. We were an iron fortress now. The crew let out a roar. The last box, I held my breath and yanked it open. Gold light cut through the fog, showing us a terrifying future. A titan of battle. The Leviathan. Think of Vince's wildest dreams were born as a winged apex killer. It's a floating fortress built for absolute control, armored to the teeth, yet draped in opulence. The price of power, 100,000 wooden planks, 10,000 iron slabs, and 5 storm cores. A heavy silence hit the deck when those numbers dropped. Zoe's voice was a broken mess. We'd be laboring for a century to build this. I just grinned. What are you afraid of? I tapped the glass, my vision tunneled by pure greed. Most would spend a lifetime failing here. But our coffers are infinite. As long as time is on our side, impossible is just a word. I unsheathed my blade, pointing it toward the horizon with a gut-wrenching, primal howl. Today, we build a kingdom on the waves. Forget this hellhole. We are moving up. Mentioning the lumber requirement drained the color from every girl's face on board. I let out a dry laugh, stowing the blueprints. You done swallow the ocean whole. You take it bit by bit. That palace is our endgame right now. Our only job is to move and stay alive. I spread the chart. Elena, do your thing. Find us the exit. Her eyes sparked as her tracking ability locked in. We are making for the Rainbow Sea. It is a sanctuary, plenty of food, no threats. But there is a bigger play here. That rainbow glazed wood for your capital. It only grows in those hidden, specific coves. No more waiting. I dumped the resources to craft the helm and rig it on the spot. I grabbed the ice-cold wheel and a surge of raw power rocked my entire nervous system. Finally, I felt like a leader. Brace for impact. South-southeast, full throttle. To the Rainbow Sea, the wind caught the canvas, and we tore forward like a bullet. The Leviathan smashed through the surf, leaving that pathetic starting zone in our wake. The engine screamed as our 500-foot steel beast tore a one into the abyss. We sailed through the darkness. By dawn, we had breached the edge of the known map. Breathing stopped, the murky black water vanished, replaced by a neon-soaked hallucination. Crimson, gold, emerald, sapphire, and violet. A 7-color ocean stretched out like a masterpiece. The air smelled of honeyed sugar. Pods of dolphins jumped to greet us. Suddenly, the mood on deck flipped. 99 girls crowded the railings, screaming like it was the start of spring break. Captain Look Lily dashed over, clutching her little bag of Lucky Charms. Our first day in paradise, I need a sign, she breathed, shaking the pouch. A pink stone tumbled out. She saw the inscription and turned bright red. She tried to palm it, but Luna was already hovering like a hawk. Luna snatched it up and shouted, "Get a load of this, the Luck of Fate rune. A message from the gods, a soft breeze touches the opening petal. The night arrives at midnight, a secret touch and a holy promise." The whole crew lost it. "Looks like Lily has got it bad for somebody. A dream night. Come on, that is just code for the boss." Lily looked ready to evaporate. I stepped in and plucked the gem right out of Luna's fingers. I gave Lily's cheek a playful, light squeeze. "Don't be shy. You are our best oracle. Ignore them. Let us head to the bridge and work on that stage fright." Amid the catcalls and cheers, I led her toward the upper deck. The air was crisp up there. Lily stood frozen, white-knuckling her skirt. Her silk-clad legs were shaking. "Are the heights getting to you, Lily?" I leaned in behind her, hands on her shoulders, whispering against her ear. "Breathe, Lily. Look up. See the empire we are about to build." Her body froze while her pulse hammered away like a trapped bird. "Why are you shaking so bad?" I looked at her trembling knees and dropped down to her level. "Nerve shot, Captain. Let me help you stay steady. Just done tea," she whispered. "Turn away," she gasped, her gaze drowning in a sea of heavy guilt. Before I could react, Chloe's sharp cry from topside shattered the heavy silence. The spell broke. Landho releasing Lily, I bolted toward the starboard railing. A towering emerald summit breached the skyline, topped with a shimmering, ghostly ring. The charts were right. Rainbow Island, the motherlode for that mythic wood. A low hum echoed from the interior. Success at last. Florid. Destination. Rainbow Island. Once we reached the shoreline, Elena gave the team the high sign. 300 elite troops moved out to sweep. After the all clear, we landed. I rallied the core group, Zoe and Luna. "Chloe and Sophie too. Stick close. We are leading the charge on the beach." We pulled the skiff onto the sand, luminous floral blinked with an eerie, pale glow. Suddenly, a translucent, gelatinous bounce bounced from the dense undergrowth. It seemed helpless, just a harmless, tiny thing acting friendly toward us. We let our guard down, but then a woman's agonizing wails pierced the air. Tearing through the vines, we found a girl by a ruined skiff, her torso torn open. Soaked in crimson, she gripped the earth, gasping out a final, desperate alert. "Avoid the fruit, the devourer, it is coming for you." She died before she could finish. The devourer, a chill raced down my spine. My instincts flared, then in a flash, everything turned into a nightmare. Obsidian streak, moving like lightning, sliced through the humid breeze. It plunged from the trees, targeting the infant in Chloe's arms. Heads up, there was no time to think. I threw myself at her with every ounce of strength. I tackled Chloe to the dirt. A high-pitched drone whizzed past my skull. A few strands of my hair fell. The predator landed, massive, ink-colored mantis. Enormous and deadly, its scythes gleamed. Its gaze was fixed on the newborn. Its gullet throbbed. It viewed the child as nothing but prey. High-level devourer mantis. Danger level unknown. Brace yourselves. Protect Chloe at all costs. I yelled. Zoe planted her heavy barricade while Luna melted into the shadows. "Lay a finger on him and you are dead," I lunged. Striking with pure fury, the beast countered instantly, slamming its limb down in a brutal strike. Bang. Blade met exoskeleton with a roar. The ground beneath my feet cracked wide. "That all you got?" I strained, forcing the creature's claw away from me. I aimed for its legs, my steel kicking up sparks against its black shell. A faint mark showed, then the insect went wild, entering a bloodthirsty rage. Its claws became a blur, cutting off my escape. I stumbled backward, dazed. I was failing left 3 paces, aimed for the hinge. A voice snapped. Elena's steady directions saved me. I lunged, driving my sword into its joint. Emerald fluid gazered out, rot in hell. Luna spat, surfacing at its rear. She drove her blade home. Suddenly, the creature's wings vibrated with terrifying force. A sonic blast sent Luna flying. She slammed into a trunk, coughing up gore. The tide turned against us. The insect launched, attempted to bypass our guard. It was thirsty for the child's blood. Then a thunderous blast echoed in the woods. A glowing pink snare slammed down, pinning the winged terror. My blood ran cold. Heat flushed my cheeks as the cage sealed. The beast turned feral. Talons raked the damp stone, torched the thing. "Chloe," I roared. The creature exhaled a massive torrent of molten gold fire. That sphere became a furnace. It shrieked. "Finish it," Elena commanded. My fingers tightened, feeling the lethal energy surge through my veins. I became a phantom, lunging forward to slice the darkness apart. Emerald ichors sprayed everywhere as I butchered the nightmare. Chime, our first elite kill, was officially on the board. I gained 1 essence point in that legendary Reaper blade. A sapphire crate manifested. Payday, I breathed, eyeing the loot. Awing Luna's broken body back, the reality of war finally set in. 99 survivors watched as I beckoned a sobbing Lily. I steadied her trembling fingers. "Finish the job for us." The tumbler clicked. bathing us in a blinding azure glow. Knowledge flooded in, revealing the universe's jagged seams. Beside the blueprints, I grasped the shimmering life elixir. I forced the serum down her throat. Recovery began in 12 seconds. Joints snapped into place. The girls witnessed the miracle cure. Midnight tides hit the hull. We huddled by the fire for warmth. I watched Elena map out our 24/7 guard rotation. Sated, I slipped through shadows toward Lily's quiet corner. I tended her gashed palm with antiseptic and a clean bandage. At dawn, I am taking you to see the world from the heights. Her face flushed deep red as the sun began its morning ascent. She stood by the railing later, scattering crumbs for the silverfish. Silently, I approached, shielding her from the biting wind. My vision pulsed, activating the skill. Golden glyphs hovered above her. Scanned her loyalty fueled by pure dread. Her greatest flaw, defenseless against me, she craved affection. I stifled a laugh. This gift was a curse. I lied about our safety to keep her calm. She collapsed into me, white-knuckling the cold iron rail. Then I spotted it, a ghost of smoke on the far horizon. Prey wasn't the only thing out there. We had company in this hell. I alerted the crew, knowing our timber wouldn't hold a siege. Lock and load. I said everyone needs heavy steel plating. We reshort 300 iron ingots. Zoe said, her voice trembling. I tossed a brick. Elena's gamble broke the entire system. A thunderous roar erupted, vibrating through the very floorboards. Hail the captain. I locked onto the hidden glitch. Light blinded me as my pack swelled with infinite ore. Absolute power, get to work, I commanded the crew. We swapped scrap for steel as the furnaces roared to life. Warrior flooded the deck, arming my new army for battle. Zoe led the line, her shield a burning beacon in the dark. Luna's grip tightened on her dual blades. Steel craving blood behind me. 95 riflemen stood ready. We were loaded for beer as the sun faded. 5 of us stepped back onto the sand. We had barely hit the brush when a jagged mantis lunged towards Suffy. Luna blurred to cut it off, while Zoe's shield smashed the beast into a massive redwood. We all fired at once, pinning the carcass to the trunk. 10 seconds, a clean job. High-tech gear against primitive trash. We pushed through the blackness until firelight appeared ahead. Some mangy thugs huddled by the flames, led by a scarred dog named Boris. He froze when he saw us, eyes wide at our pristine armor and high-grade steel. Glaring at my crew, Boris spat, grabbed a rusted axe, and started barking orders. You are lost, boys. What brings you to my territory? Strip them. I will handle the women first. He sounded truly vile. I did not even flinch. I just whispered, wipe them out. Luna vanished into the dark, haunting the air behind one of his thugs. A silver flash, a severed throat, and a spray of red. Pure surgical precision. You are dead meat, Boris yelled. Rushing us, you think you can touch me. Zoe let out a dark laugh, her power flaring as she swung that iron wall. 2 sickening thuds followed, ribs turned to dust, and 2 men folded like paper. Crossbow bolts hissed through the night, never missing a mark. 30 seconds flat. The camp became a tomb. Boris snapped, raising his stone hatchet for one final prayer. He swung for my head, too slow. Against my 24 endurance points, he was a statue. I caught his strike with my sword. One-handed, a metallic boom shook the woods. The shockwave crushed his hand. That garbage stone axe of his just turned to debris. My steel touched his throat. I watched the terror soak right through his pants. I leaned in. I'm the landlord now. Any more questions? Boris hit his knees, frantically crossing himself and begging for a shred of mercy. I tapped his face with cold metal, demanding truth. He leaked secrets like a broken pipe. Somewhere deep in this nightmare, a glowing, massive spider was guarding the path. The king of Gormans, intel secured. I sheathed my steel and walked away. Boris exhaled, thinking he had survived. Until I gave the final signal, Luna. Leave nobody alive. Luna became a shadow. The night filled with screams. Silence returned, the soil soaked in blood. In this place, the weak are just fuel. That was the law. I touched the mantis' remains, letting my gift drain its soul. Fresh power flooded my veins. I stepped over the trash cluttering the trail. I stared into the neon heart of the woods, my blood screaming for a fight. I have Elena set up base here by tomorrow, I told the girls. We are hunting a god. Darkness swallowed the rainbow-colored jungle. Glowing plants lit the camp in neon while the girls prepped the meal. A mercy is for the rich. Elena sat beside me, her dark gear catching the firelight. She was stunning nearby. The rest of the team was teasing Lily again. They wanted her to touch the glowing runes, but she was frozen by nerves. I handed her a shimmering blue flower, our fingers grazing for a heartbeat. She shook. Just a down payment. I whispered in her ear, there is a real prize waiting on the ship, Ewan. She turned bright red, speechless, just as Elena arrived with the tactical maps. We stepped into the tent, where she drew up a cold, perfect flanking plan. A cold grin split my face as I pulled her close, staking my claim, pure perfection. Our next score requires absolute precision, Elena. Our reputation survives on results, not amateur hour mistakes. Shamed, her composure shattered, and her cheeks flushed crimson. Shadows consumed us, the air thick with anticipation. At first light, I emerged renewed, my power peaking at 27. My team stood ready. On the precipice below, shimmering glades lay, choked by massive, suffocating silk. Strangling the old oaks, a horrific hybrid creature. Part woman, part spider. waited deadly, a mythical horror, the sovereign of decay. Arachne, Zoe charged in, slamming her buckler with a deafening metallic boom. "Come get some, you hideous freak," the matriarch shrieked, calling forth a swarm of hatchlings to drown Zoe in filth. Now I barked. Chloe let her young drake off the chain. Molten golden flames surged from the beast, engulfing the monarch in a searing inferno. Ember clouds swirled, yet her shell remained unscared. Spell-resistant, she glared directly at Chloe. Corrosive webbing fired at her. I dove, shoving Chloe out of the kill zone. Stone dissolved where the goo landed. It was concentrated, deadly chemical venom. Luna slipped into the gloom, twin blades thirsting for the monster Sunderbilly. Steel clattered uselessly against armor. Failure. The impact tossed Luna into the sticky traps. Serrated, spindly limbs arched upward, poised to impale her through the heart. Won a challenge. Adrenaline surged as I plummeted headfirst off the ledge. I triggered the nightly pact while falling. My steel hummed with azure electricity. All or nothing. Empowered blow. I targeted the seam connecting the human and beast. That unholy junction. Rot in hell. I lashed out with total, blinding fury. Air pressure spiked. I shattered her protection as if it were fragile glass. My edge buried itself in her core. Thick dark ichor geesered into the air. Her final shriek thundered during the fall. I hit the ground, drawing upon Titan's feast. Pure power coursed through my veins. Endurance increased by 15 points. Willpower rose 30 points. Unlocked a mythic talent. Our action had mimicry. The Titan went still. Silence reigned until the server-wide alert pierced every mind. Premier mythic slaying reward. Grand Crate. My squad immediately felt their attributes skyrocket. Ship durability surged. Online boards exploded. Rivals panicked while thousands begged to join us. Ignoring the hype, I plucked the level 2 power hub from the remains. Just 5 more Tempest units before we achieve maximum speed. Back on board, I presented the violet treasure. Yours, Lily. Her fingers trembled. The dice rolled well. Golden light bat the wood. Massive luck multiplier active. I cracked the chest. A beating, blood-red behemoth heart throbbed within. The ultimate enhancement. I surveyed the 99 crewwoman. Finally spotting a terrified Lily, I leaned forward and gently lifted her chin. She seemed lost, breathless. Recall my promise to you, Lily, not a sound. Stress filled the air. I stared into her soul and addressed the entire crowd. Lily, stand with me. You renown this vessel's co-leader. She began to sob. A 3-year vigil ended. Yes, she screamed, lunging into my embrace. She held me with desperate strength. I leaned in and kissed her deeply. The shock was too much. She collapsed unconscious. I lifted her and walked toward my room. We need to improve her endurance. Yet by dawn, she looked truly glowing. I rallied the crew, slamming the thrumming Titan engine into its socket. A sharp crack rang out, red light erupting as the hull expanded under raw, brutal pressure. The screech of shifting iron filled the air until that blinding glare finally died away. A massive 300-foot steel beast now loomed over the dark, churning waves. Level 6 warship, fully loaded with heavy artillery and thriving hydroponic bays. We felt invincible, right until a blood-curdling shriek killed the celebration. Sophie's voice echoed from the mast. Cap, we were drifting straight into the dead zone. I squinted through the reinforced glass. The ocean looked like gray, rotting ash. A coal-black pirate vessel cut us off, flying a flag with a jagged wolf skull. Victor eyed my 100-strong female crew with a hungry, unhinged grin. Welcome to the blood trenches, kid. The filth-covered captain sneered. He wanted the whole lot. Our home had just become a kill or be killed ring. I scanned his ship, a falling apart level 5 junker, absolute trash. No big shot here. Elena, do your girls feel like getting their hands dirty? Caught on it, she mouthed. Suddenly the deep water began to boil and swell. Massive sea monsters shredded their wooden hull like it was wet paper. Water rushed in, their vessel began a fast, hopeless dive below. Panic hit Victor. Fire the hooks, take that vessel, or we refish food. Raiders swarmed our railings, only to be met by an absolute, total bloodbath. Zoa's heavy shield crushed the lead attacker's face like a fragile glass vase. His skull caved in moments before the predators below finished him off. Luna blurred through the crowd, her steel opening every throat she passed. Sharpshooters tagged the rest, dumping bodies overboard like sacks of heavy stones. Incompetent fools, Victor roared, shoving his dying men aside to get to me. He lunged, his biceps bulging so hard his skin looked ready to pop. He shot toward me like a heavy lead slug fired from a cannon. Time to finish this, I muttered, drawing my cold silver edge. Clang, the impact echoed across the silent gore-stained deck. His fist slammed into my blade, shattering every bone in his hand instantly. Victor screamed as jagged white splinters tore through his tan skin. With a flick of my wrist, I pressed the freezing steel against his windpipe. His men bailed. Victor just sat there, trembling like a frightened child. Sea law is simple, kill the leader, and the spoils are all yours. He slammed his head against the wood, begging for one more chance. I just smirked, one clean sweep, and his head rolled across the deck boards. Victor's done, engines salvaged, these waters belong to me now. I was the undisputed lord here, yet the approaching shadow felt suffocating. Chloe was sulking because I wouldn't let her join the carnage. She's a total nutcase. I hauled her straight back to my private cabin. Door slammed, lights out. I pinned her hard against the steel wall. She gasped for air. Consider this a lesson in following orders. My low voice made her shiver. You're staying put tonight, Chloe. I brushed her hair aside. She stood frozen, her cheeks flushing bright crimson. Suddenly, a screaming alarm tore through the heavy silence between us. The monitors turned blood red. The 12-hour blood moon conflict had started. Blood red markers bled across the interface as every ship's cover was blown. Taking down a commander meant a fortune, enough to buy an entire sovereignty. A rush of cold adrenaline flooded my heart. My luck hadn't expired. The universe just declared open season. The harvest had finally begun. Abandoning Chloe in the cabin, I hit the deck, my voice drowning out the storm. Up, we go hot in 5 minutes. 99 sisters in arms stood locked and loaded, though their eyes kept darting to the lethal pings pulsing on our monitors. The Leviathan was a behemoth of wood and steel out here. We were the biggest target in sight. There was nowhere to hide. I drew my blade, the steel reflecting a moon bruised and heavy. Focus, this isn't a crisis. This is our winning lottery ticket. Elena's fingers danced over the helm, scanning for the weakest link nearby. Battle stations, she whispered, locking onto our first prey. We caught a heavy gust, and the massive ship lunged forward like a starving beast, catching a scent on the wind. 30 minutes later, a small fourth-tier scout emerged from the fog. The crew looked like they were attending their own funeral. They tried a desperate turn, but they were already in our teeth. Open fire, I roared. Nearly 100 heavy bolts launched simultaneously, a wall of jagged steel that completely blotted out the pale moonlight. The silence shattered into splinters and dying screams. The wild dog's captain was dead before he could even process the threat. One Storm Corps claimed the surgical brutality of the kill felt like a drug, a rush I had almost forgot. On the railing, I let the freezing spray bite my skin while watching the leaderboard update with the ghosts of men. A cold, predatory smirk touched my lips. Find me another, keep their heads underwater. Elena stared at her monitors, her face a mask of stone. Welcome to the butcher shop. Silas, next mark is 15 miles. Another small fourth-tier vessel with 20 souls. We didn't just sail toward them. We stalked them like a nightmare. The crew's doubt had vanished, replaced by a cold, clinical precision. They weren't T-survivors anymore. They were the ones holding the knife. Zoe leaned on her shield, cracking jokes with Luna as if we weren't T about extinguished 20 more lives. Sophie's voice drifted from the crow's nest. Cap target spotted. Looks like they brought a little friend for backup. I grabbed the scope and saw 2 dinghies lashed together. A pathetic attempt to hide from fate in numbers. They wallowed in the swells, huddled like sheep waiting for the butcher's blade to finally fall. They had caught our signature. They knew exactly what kind of monster was screaming down on them from the dark. They regrouping, someone muttered, change the plan. I gave a dry hollow laugh. Elena, does your hungry pack want a midnight snack tonight? She stayed silent, but her wicked grin said everything as she white-knuckled the steering controls. I turned to the women, my voice booming over the Atlantic. Erase them. Leave nothing but salt and driftwood. On the lead deck, Captain Blake was trembling with a fear so primal, he could barely stand his ground. He blustered about numbers, 30 men against my 99, pure delusion. Ready the hooks, he cried, but his spine turned to water the moment we tore through the mist. The atmosphere shrieked, 99 bolts sang a chorus of sudden, absolute finality. A storm of iron shredded their sails and their spirit. Blake begged his men to find some kind of cover, but there was no refuge on that floating casket. The sound of steel hitting bone became a rhythmic, steady pulse, half forgotten heartbeats. Slim, the other captain, did T fight. He just leaped into the churning black water. He didn't get far. Elena's hounds, beasts the size of wolves, surfaced from the abyss to drag him under. He vanished instantly, pulled into the deep without leaving even a single bubble behind. Ram the hull, I barked, my heart as cold as the crushing depths below us. The collision sounded like a detonation. The boats turned to kindling against our heavy iron plating. The survivors never got the chance to drown. The swarm harvested them before they could even scream. The heads-up display flashed. Black Shark leader neutralized. 1 storm core secured. Another ping confirmed Slim's end. My total reached 4 cores. I was on the threshold of godhood. I pulled up the ranks to see who remained to be hunted. The Blood Wolf Alliance was leading with 7 confirmed kills. We were holding second place with 4. The gap was closing fast. I leaned back, a dark serenity filling me. Good, I always loved it when dinner delivered itself. Elena pointed with a shaking hand, her jaw locked tight. We're sinking. Silas, the vultures are out for blood. 7 red alerts pulse on screen, boxing us in. The wind sparked a total lockout, a heavy silence fell. The board had us surrounded, interns panicked. Scared of what? Zoe killed her screen. I'm ending them. Shut up. My command shattered the noise. I focused on the data. Adrenaline surged. Let him try Elena. Wait, you found it. Her eyes lit up with brilliant realization. She breathed it. A grin spread. This corporate execution would be a bloodbath. Excellent. Everyone, listen, I snatched my gold fountain pen. Sophie, choke their servers with trash, bury them in noise. Elena, lock them out. Nobody gives an inch today. The CO is mine. 10 minutes vanished in a blur. The suits arrived. Fenrir led the pack like a predator. He looked at us like filth. Sign over everything now. Hand it over and you might survive. Then a spark, then a surge tore through hardware, killing every screen at once. Hell broke loose in the dark. Strange frequencies echoed. The grid's down. They were just rats trapped in darkness. Companies crashed in shadows. I slipped through like smoke. I took the level 3 stairs without making a sound. His login glowed red. I struck like a heat-seeking missile. Click! The payload delivered. He was erased in a second. Target 1 neutralized. I didn't pause for a breath. I melted back into the void. The slaughter was underway. Brad's gone. They're inside. Then the screaming stopped suddenly. Fenrir's ego crumbled into pure terror. Pull back aboard. Get us out now. Too late. The haze started clearing. His office was the only one standing. Others were hollow. I loomed in his doorway, my suit perfectly crisp. I boxed him in, a chime echoed, simulation complete. Silas, 11 kills, rank 1 prize, senior partner status offered. A gold notification pinged on my desk. I ignored him. I finished him with a look. Fenrir is done, assets secured. 5 firms crushed, 99 employees watch me return home. I swept the room and pinned Chloe, the traitor. She looked fragile. First I deal with the snakes. I moved in, Chloe's face flushed a deep, guilty crimson. She tried to be brave. I followed every corporate policy. She nearly ratted us out. A professional death sentence. Office. Now, I walked off without looking back. She trailed behind, shaking, the heavy door locked shut. The city skyline flickered through glass. I crowded her space. She hit the wall and stopped. I boxed her in. I pinned her against the timber, drowning in her vanilla scent. A confess already, I whisper, my lips grazing her neck. She caves instantly, that soft moan dying in her throat. No more solo stunts, you broke rank, now you pay. I lift her face, locking eyes. This is your penance. When the next boss spawns, you pull the trigger. She freezes. The deal shocks her, but I remain unmoving, absolute submission. Run when I command, even if you lose the kill. Serve me. We square, her gaze glows. She knows I finally trust her. I am yours, she swears, nodding with fierce certainty. Her tone trembles like a warrior finally reaching her limit. I kiss her brow softly, her mind goes completely blank. She blushes hard, shielding her face, your prize for behaving. Let us see the loot, the bonfire blazes at camp. The gilded crate sits waiting. Lily, crack it open, I say. Crimson face, she empties her pack until rainbow light erupts. A spectrum flash blinds us, we just broke the game. She can warp reality now, I kick the lid wide. A shimmering azure tum hovers within the velvet interior. Oceankin's reach, a mythical relic of the deep. It traps tides into a 100-meter prison. Pure control. In this watery wasteland, it is a weapon of genocide. I absorb the power, pulse sensing with the ocean's strum. Aiming at the horizon, I strike. Total carnage. A tidal limb erupts, churning the air to a gale. Silence falls, engine output red lines. I pass the 5 cores. Gear is set. Sleep now. We raid that island tomorrow. Sunrise, we floor it. I spent all night bartering hard. Swapped 1,000 jars for 10,000 planks and 99 axes. 30 women swarm the timber, axes falling in perfect rhythm. They clear the woods. When monsters strike, I paralyze them. Liquid chains bind the prey. Luna ends it instantly. At sunset, 1,000 units of prime lumber are loaded. I spread the legendary blueprints. Time to build. Commencing level 2 engine construction. All systems are green. Violet energy shrouds the whole. A heavy trimmer begins. Runes sear the wood. The rustic helm becomes digital. Autonav is active. 40 knots. This ocean is ours. I ignite the thrusters. We slice through like blue bolts. I seize the controls, drifting the Leviathan with surgical precision. Cheers erupt, then the monitors bleed red. My blood chills. Divine alert. A global tsunami arrives at 9 tomorrow. Scaling. Hope vanishes. Our power determines the height of our doom. She's success is our death sentence. Why the long faces, team? I bark an order. Kill in the panic. No more scavenging. Level 6. This surge is a disaster. It's a divine payday. My words ignited their souls. The crew assembled. Those beasts were just swimming treasure chests. Elena barked the kill order. Zoe and Luna held the line. Chloe unleashed hellfire while Sophie's traps choked the shrieking swarm. 90 women manned the bows. Cycling shifts. I watched from the rear, the architect of this gorgeous carnage. 8:50 a.m. We stood like statues in the salt mist. Then the clock hit 0. A 30-foot wall of black tide rose from the horizon. Death finally had a face. The wave's peak was a thrashing mess of mutated horrors. They were starving for us. Stand fast. I thrust my arms out, calling the deep's binding to chain the abyss. The ocean boiled around the beast as massive liquid shields erupted from the dark. A ring of steel locked, bang. The sea's hammer struck our watery shield with pure malice. The entire mile shook. Monsters turned to pulp against our wall, dragged into the void. A few survivors hit the deck, using their speed to strike. Open fire. Elena screamed. 90 crossbows released a mechanical rhythm of iron death. A massive freak, part crab, part squid, crawled over the rail, a wet shadow of rot. Ivy got this. Zoe dug in behind her shield, taking the crushing weight head on. She skidded, gouging trenches into the wood, but she held. Luna just vanished. A blade found the crack. The third joint is the heart. Kill it. I shouted the weakness through my insight. Luna reappeared, driving steel into the soft belly. It died with a screech. Then the real nightmare arrived, a 30-foot elite abyssal lizard. It scaled the hull, jaws glowing with a dark beam aimed at our shooters. You're done. I commanded the ocean to submit. A massive watery hand rose, snapping that energy beam like a twig. Steam hissed everywhere. Go for the throw. Close fire, and Zoe's spear hit the monster at once. A hail of iron shredded its jaw. The lizard recoiled, its black blood staining the deck. I leaped high, charging my blade. My reaper's scythe fell like a hammer from the heavens. It split the lizard's skull in one strike. Boss dead. First blood to us. Looted 1 storm core. 1 hour pure hell later. The tide finally began to pull back. The ship was a butcher's shop, yet every one of our 100 girls was still breathing. Mission success. The payout arrived as 2 shafts of shimmering gold light. 1 storm core and an epic crate. Victory roars shook the blood-stained deck. The crew cleared the remains while the guards hauled off the dead. I repaired the hull. I signaled for silence. This win wasn't just about sharp blades. It was something more. Beyond the strategy, our luck has a human name. I looked at Lily in the corner. She was busy stitching wounds. Suddenly, 100 pairs of eyes were locked on her. Lily turned bright red. I pushed through the crowd. walking straight to her. I moved a sweaty lock from her face, my skin brushing hers. You open the chest. I lean in close, my voice barely a whisper. Come to my quarters tonight. I have secrets to show you. Lily's knees nearly gave out under the weight of it. Her head was spinning, trembling. She walked toward that massive, gold-trimmed box. She whispered a prayer, palms pressed together. Click. The lock finally snapped open. Garden parts. Time to start the farm, and the sirens ring. 30% mana recharge. Costs drop 20% with an instant cast slot. A legendary tool for any caster. I slid the ring on, feeling the power surge. We turned to the rest of the loot. Wood iron rations, blueprints, and seeds, the paycheck for a desperate war. Real food. Finally, Luna yanked a glowing white card from the filth. Almost 100 girls held their breath as that bottom tier card started to pulse with light. Most were garbage, so this single token was our only prayer when I handed it over to Patty. She was our ghost, the scavenger who stayed out of sight and handled the bodies. This one is all yours, Patty. You're the only person who actually earned it. Through her tears, she triggered the chef's skill, instantly mastering the dark side of cooking. Real game changer. Suddenly, our squad's stats went through the roof as the loot cinched up. Late that night, in the total dark, a faint tapping sounded against my cabin door. Lily was standing there, looking like a scared little lamb in her school uniform. Captain, I put my blade away and moved closer until we were almost touching. Her fingers were like ice. Why are you so cold? I asked, guiding her toward the window. I pulled her close, my heart thumping against her chest through that light fabric. You're my good luck charm. We're only alive because of you, I whispered. My breath caught her neck as I turned her around. Here's your prize. I kissed her, and all that nervous energy just turned into total surrender. She went completely limp in my arms like warm wax. 30 minutes later, I undid her laces. Leave the stockings on. I have a reason for that. The hours slipped away until the first light of dawn hit the crumpled bedding. I nudged her nose and she looked away, blushing. Then the system alert popped. Ping! Second legacy successfully claimed. The digital voice rang out in my head. Elite bloodline detected. Third infinite conversion unlocked. We finally hit the jackpot. I sat up, trying to keep my cool, and pulled my clothes back on. I tracked down Elena, our lead strategist, to explain the triple conversion breakthrough. What is the move? I asked her while checking over my equipment. Her tactical mind kicked into gear as she pointed. Go for the storm cores. High-level tech. With infinite energy, we can hit them from a completely different level. Exactly. We had one mission, get our hands on those storm cores. It worked. I grabbed that rare blueprint and pinned it to the table. Build it. The Leviathan rumble erupted in a violet glow, shining with a blinding, heavenly light. The frame twisted, transforming basic wood, unbreakable black and gold plating. Heavy cannons and turrets burst from the sides, looking absolutely lethal. A massive ram took shape. 10 minutes later, the beast was ready for war. A 150-meter floating fortress hit the waves. The evolution was complete. 20,000 health, 50 armor, and max ramming power. The crew went wild. This ocean belongs to us now, Elena remarked, gesturing toward the garden deck. But we still need enchanted soil for crops. She marked a spot on the map. I pushed open the bridge door and grabbed the ship's microphone. My voice boomed out across every single deck of the massive ship. We are heading for the open sea. The level 2 engine started to roar. That steel monster cut through the waves. This felt like a vacation, not survival. Out on the deck, the girls finally loosened up and ditched their heavy armor. They hung out in light tops, their young energy mixing with the salt air. Zoe used her insane strength to pull massive monsters straight out of the deep. Sophie was fishing while Chloe's pet dragon just watched with a bored expression. I was reviewing the new plans when I heard a knock. It was Lucy. Several terrified women approached, looking completely rattled. Captain, our good fortune expired 14 days at sea and their cycles hit simultaneously. High stress since them. Now stable, nature was collecting its overdue debt. 99 women and 0 supplies on a vessel that is a nightmare. Market rates were robbery, 10 water bottles for 1 hygiene pack. The chat was pure insanity. Men were begging scalpers to save their girls. I just grinned. Those prices meant ruin for others. For me, pocket change. I messaged the lead hoarders and bought everything. They were stunned. My inbox blew up. Everyone assumed I had finally lost my grip. I tapped purchase, draining the entire global market until it was dry. I dumped the massive shipment of supplies right onto the deck. Silence followed. Then Lucy lunged at me, sobbing in a desperate hug. They cheered through tears, buying absolute loyalty for water. A cheap trade. I had just secured a 99-person army. A massive return on investment. Night 4, the air turned freezing as we breached the outer perimeter. The wind died, replaced by a silence that made my skin crawl. Sensors spiked. 30 miles out, something massive was pulsing with life. The life core, our goal, full speed, I barked. Stay sharp. 5 miles away, system screamed. The hardware began to physically melt. Complete blackout. A strange field turned our monitors into white noise. Data glitched. My insight skill flashed a warning that felt like hell. The dreaming garden slumbering. Do not wake her. This wasn't land. It was a goddess's bed. Battle stations, I roared. 99 weapons readied as we drifted inward. In the quiet, a phantom female voice echoed inside our skulls. Strangers, thank you for stepping into the center of my dream. The girls turned white. I shouted commands to keep Moro from breaking. We hit the shore. The ground felt warm and strangely alive. The island inhaled. Vines pulled back, carving a path toward the center. A crystal lake appeared at its heart. A giant flower pulsed light. A gorgeous woman with flowing emerald hair rested inside the bloom. Her dress was living ivy. A massive life force radiated from her. System alert. Legendary life form detected. undetected. Flora, the sleeping goddess. The prompt was cold. A soul union was required to heal her. If I claimed her, the ultimate asset was mine forever. I stared at the screen. This wasn't a request, it was an order. A legendary recruit meant survival. We would never go hungry again. I faced the crew, stunny-eyed. The island's energy is dangerously unstable. I must use my aura to perform a deep spiritual realignment. Fan out and stand guard. Do not look back at me. They scattered. I walked the glowing path, my heart hammering. As I reached her, the petals closed, locking us in light. Facing a goddess, I didn't hesitate. I began the ritual. 4 hours later, the blossom burst. A mental shockwave of vitality rocked the island. Everything bloomed and died in a violent, rapid cycle of rebirth. A jagged bolt of neon green split the sky, turning the water into molten glass. That emerald glow swallowed the horizon, and suddenly, every radio in the world hit total silence. Emergency pings flared as ancient tech woke up, baiting every bottom feeder ship in the quadrant right to us. The pillar of light collapsed inward, funneling straight into Flora's heart while she floated, weightless. Her eyes snapped open, blazing with raw energy. She was finally mine. A goddess bound to my soul. Somewhere deep within, a triple-star heartbeat thrummed, igniting a legacy of sheer celestial power. My fourth-tier mastery finally clicked into place. But Luna's scream shattered the moment like glass. Silas, they were on top of us. I snarled at the horizon where an endless fleet blotted out the sun. I caught the newborn girl's gaze and sent a thought straight to her. You ready to break things? She gave me a slight, quizzical tilt of her head, then reached out and crushed the empty air. The ocean floor detonated, sending colossal thorn-choked vines tearing through the surface like sea monsters. Massive, 30-foot blossoms of carnage bloomed across the waves, their petals slick with a lethal appetite. Those scavengers came hunting for a payday, but ended up feeding the fish instead. Barbed spikes punched through reinforced steel, dragging the whole pirate armada down into the dark. The flowers swallowed the fleet whole, pulverizing timber and bone into a misty crimson fog. It was a total bloodbath. Zoe was paralyzed, her eyes locked on the carnage unfolding before us. With just a flick of her wrist, the battle was over. She simply walked back and knelt. I belong to you, master. She rubbed her stomach, looking baffled by the pulse thrumming within her. So, when do I get to have another one of your babies? She asked with terrifyingly sweet curiosity. My pulse spiked, and the look Chloe gave me was sharp enough to draw blood. Look, that's a whole thing, I stammered. Can we just put a pin in that for now? Where's the holy ground? Flora asked, simply nudging the dirt beneath our boots. You're standing on it, she said with a shrug. The dollar signs were practically flashing in my eyes. Massive jackpot. I didn't hesitate to trade my rarest card for a few plain-looking seed potatoes. She flicked them skyward, and a ripple of emerald energy surged from her fingertips. Within 10 seconds, those shriveled skins exploded through the soil, growing at an impossible rate. Massive, luminous crops, each one larger than a human head, heaped up in a shimmering mound. She legendary loot, divine sun tubers. This was a harvest meant for the heavens, not us. Every mouthful was a permanent stat boost. Grab the shovels, people, move it. I barked into the radio, but then again, getting her hands dirty was way below a goddess of her rank. She stretched out a palm and literally inhaled the life force of the island. The earth crumbled into nothing, and we watched the entire landmass slide quietly into the ocean. Now, she cradled a miniature, glowing replica of the land in her hand, a literal pocket-sized souvenir. Once we were back on the ship, Chloe's annoyance was so thick you could practically feel the heat. Chulo let out a frustrated sigh and folded her arms. Flora mirrored her with spooky, flawless precision. She even copied the angry foot stomp, nearly punching a hole through the reinforced decking. The crew was losing it, laughing their heads off, but Chloe looked like she might actually snap. When night fell, Elena drifted into my quarters, wrapped in nothing but a whisper of black silk. Her dark hosiery shimmered as she glided over and set a coffee down on my desk. That fourth upgrade, she whispered, kneaded my shoulders. What are we doing with it? I caught her by the wrist and pulled her in tight, closing every bit of space between us. She sat down opposite me, the soft slide of silk audible as she crossed her legs. Food isn't the problem anymore, she noted. Save that energy for something that can change our destiny. She was always playing the long game. I got up and leaned over her, boxing her in. I held her gaze for a long moment as the air in the small room turned heavy. Gramps tried to caution us, but the opportunity vanished. Now our premium hall is drowning in brine. Elena turned scarlet, giving me a sharp, flirtatious poke in the ribs. You're twisting my intent, she whispered. I moved in, breath grazing her skin. Orders are orders. The brief isn't over. We must clarify my role as partner. Suddenly, the lights failed. I wasn't rushing the process. The current prize was too volatile. Then dawn broke. Sunrise brought absolute mayhem. Claire chased Flora, waving expensive lace silks through the air. Flora dodged through the rigging, wearing only tangled green foliage. Not a chance. This is tiny, Flora shrieked, clutching her chest and looking completely miserable. They need some air. I nearly spat out my coffee at the sight. I told her to dress properly in a shirt, finally ending the morning circus. Patty boiled the high-tier potatoes. A golden glow began bleeding from the pot. A heavy scent hit us. I nodded. 99 girls ate like a pack of hounds. One bite electrified my blood. My stats rose 0.5 instantly. Peace evaporated. The vibe shifted. That energy was too unstable. The crew was hitting their limit. A collective fever slammed the boat. Sophie looked scorched, sweat rolling off her skin. Lily tugged her collar. Dazed, Claude didn't blink. She just shredded her jacket. She stood in a tight tank, skin glowing pink. Elena's silks were drenched. The fabric clung to every curve. The deck became a suffocating, humid steam room. Seeing nearly 100 girls like that was overwhelming. Stay put. Take a seat. Channel the power. I roared, fighting my gut. If you're burning up, shit the layers. Use internal cooling. They didn't need to hear it again. Clothes flew everywhere. Flora moved in, reaching to unfasten my own shirt. Let's cool you down, boss. I caught her wrist. Any more and we'd sink. An hour passed before level stabilized. Everyone's raw strength finally hit double digits. So did backflips, testing her body, but the real danger followed the upgrade. The girls turned feral. They swarmed me, hands wandering with eyes full of hunger. It felt like predators cornering a prize. I laughed, fending off 12 grasping hands. Suddenly, a shriek ripped from the mast. Sophie was screaming. Captain, something's drifting ahead. It looks like a human. My gut churned. I snatched binoculars, dread rising as I scanned the waves. A clattering drone vibrated through the air. The sky flared into a brilliant, scorched amber. A massive golden barrier dropped from the clouds, bisecting the ocean. No corpse out there. It was a massive alert burning across the horizon. Global announcement. Grace period over. Commencing trials. Global survival and power rankings are now live. Silence fell. Every girl stood frozen, eyes wide with the shock of the news. I checked the roster. Leviathan ranked first, mostly thanks to Flora's unique gift. But Flora's a gardener, not a fighter. In battle, that rank is meaningless. The crews behind us had hired actual special forces. That's serious military muscle. I checked the survival board, and my heart stopped. First place, a level 8 war fortress. Second, a level 7 phantom vessel. We were only 5th. Close snapped. Bull, how the hell are we only 5th? She was fuming. Our new confidence was being shredded by those cold stats. Quiet, I barked, cutting through the panic and the noise on deck. 5th means we're prey. Do you want to rot here and die? Or are we making Leviathan the true number one? Zor roared, fist raised. Forget the weak, let them sink, and feed the predators in the deep. Instantly, my crew's fire hit 100%. Elena adjusted her glasses with chilling precision. Reaching level 7 requires hardware that simply does not exist on the open market. You won't find these parts for sale anywhere. Our only play is the top-tier hit list. I scanned the global leaderboards. I locked on to a legendary job raid, the Banshee's Nest. The payoff included a credit voucher for 10,000. Those rare components were our golden ticket to the top, but every scavenger on the planet was hunting them. 8 rival armadas are closing in, but only one survivor claims the prize. Elena, get the deck ready for war. Set a direct vector for the layers. Darkness swallowed the sea. The Leviathan's turbines screamed at maximum output. The air was thick as the team checked their steel. This wasn't a rehearsal. It was a high-stakes one-way trip to hell. I stood alone on the bridge, tracing the maps. The door clicked shut as Elena walked in with a hot coffee. She traded her fatigues for a soft knit sweater. Though she still wore those signature dark silks, she moved toward me. Her fingers worked the tension out of my temples while she whispered enemy coordinates. I let the sensation anchor me. I leaned into her touch for a heartbeat before my eyes caught the sharp, elegant lines of her figure. Professor, you have a snag in your nylons. She froze, her gaze darting down toward her upper thigh. A tiny rip had started to fray, showing a sliver of pale skin. A deep crimson heat climbed her neck. She panicked. Trying to hide the imperfection, I dropped to one knee, my eyes locked on the ruined fabric. My hand brushed the seam by accident before I gave it a firm tug. The material gave way completely. A soft breath escaped her lips as she shivered, her knees finally buckling into the leather pilot seat. Professor, even a mind as sharp as yours can suffer a mechanical failure. I stood up and exhaled slowly. I pulled a fresh pack of premium black silks from the locker and pressed them firmly into her palm. Put these on. Tomorrow's fight requires your absolute focus. She gripped the box, her face burning with intensity. She bolted from the bridge like the room was on fire. 3 hours later, I heard another soft tap. Lily drifted inside this time, wearing one of my white dress shirts that barely reached her mid-thigh. Barefoot and trembling, she looked like a cornered rabbit. Captain, I need to talk about the drop. My premonitions are screaming of blood. I'm terrified I'll fail the team. As our seer, her gut beats any radar. I pulled her into a tight embrace, warming her shivering hands. Tell me exactly what the darkness told you. If the world burns, I'll be the one to put it out. I smirked darkly. To make sure you don't crack tomorrow. We are starting an intense synchronization session now. I'll use my core strength to ground your internal energy. The logic was thin, but Lily closed her eyes and followed orders. That training session was incredibly deep. We moved from theory to raw practice until well past midnight. Finally, she drifted into a heavy trance. Just then, Amber's system warnings flared. Crew member Lily's hidden potential has been completely shattered and unlocked. Her power now has the chance to trigger a literal miracle. Damn, that bonding session really paid off. At dawn, I woke a disheveled, messy-haired Lily to check her charms. She looked like she'd survived a hurricane. She rattled her pouch, her face flushing red. A blinding golden light erupted. The Aegis of Athena. It creates a 50-meter zone of pure sanctuary for 30 minutes. Every incoming strike becomes completely useless. It also regenerates the crew's health by 5% every second. A total god mode cheat. This win is ours. By sunrise, eyes, the Leviathan reached the Murning Trench. The water was dead, smelling of rust and ghostly echoes. The static rattled my brain through the gray haze. 7 other massive steel warships were already waiting. I spotted the spiked tyrant, the venomous cobra, and the iron-clad sentinel lurking in the mist. Every captain there was a career murderer. We agreed via radio to meet on the wreckage in the center. Suspended over the abyss, I walked out with Zoe and Luna. More than 20 hitmen were waiting for us. Every single one of them felt like a loaded gun. Rex, a massive beast, gripped a blood-stained axe. He saw my 2-woman escort and barked a laugh. The Leviathan's boss brings dolls to a massacre. Boom, without a single word. Zoe slammed her massive steel shield into the wooden deck. The entire platform shook violently. Luna's fingers tightened like a vice around the hilt of her blade. Her gaze locked on his throat like a sniper's crosshairs. I ignored the noise and looked toward the stage. A 1,000-meter vortex spiraled into the abyss. Those old snakes masked their venom with plastic grins and hollow promises. The contract was signed, 8 fleets holding position, dropping 10 divers each into that pitch-black void. It was a suicide pact. A chain of death where one mistake would drag every one of us to hell. Panicking meant cutting your neighbor's throat just to breathe. I signaled the drop and kept my mouth shut. The water felt like heavy, black oil as we lowered the lines, and crushing weight began gnawing at our sanity. Sophie looked like she had seen a ghost. I leaned on my 80 points of grit to handle the pressure at 50 meters. Suddenly, a rival line lashed toward us like a striking cobra, tearing through the current with lethal intent. They were trying to wipe us out. Looking to die today, Zoe spat, her eyes burning like hot coals. She dug in, bracing against the steel cable while raising her massive shield to catch the blow. The impact echoed like a funeral bell. Zoe did not flinch, absorbing the entire shock herself. Captain Viper's oily voice hissed through the comms, sounding way too amused by the carnage. Oops, my finger slipped. He sneered. I felt a cold, murderous fury take root in my chest. Luna balanced the scales for a heartbeat. The water seemed to shudder and warp around us. Luna vanished into the ink. 2 seconds of suffocating tension passed before the first scream broke. A jagged cry tore through the Cobra unit. Their guard's arm instantly became a spray of red mist. His severed hand sank into the dark. Luna was back at my side before anyone could even blink. Her blade was bone dry. The silence was heavy as those old bastards realized my team was not playing. We were not just a crew, we were apex predators. We hit the floor, finding a shattered altar inside a tomb. Ghostly shrieking shadows drifted through the air, ignoring our steel while rotting our minds with 50% efficiency. Rex snapped, charging ahead with his blood-stained axe raised for a massive overhead swing. "Go to hell, you freak," he roared. The blade cut through the spirit like smoke, leaving it laughing. The shadow shrieked back, a psychic blast that sent Rex stumbling like a wasted old drunk. Metal was useless here. I looked back with a cold smirk. "Chloe, show them how we do it." Chloe snapped her fingers, and her dragon took flight, letting out a roar that shook the very foundation. A blast of white-hot lightning and fire erased the ghosts. Physical immunity did not mean a thing anymore. This was total magical destruction. The shadows turned into glowing ash before they even make a sound. Light flooded the chamber. Rex just stood there, jaw dropped, staring at the empty air. The other captains watched, their faces shifting between pure terror and raw greed. We had won effortlessly. Blood-red runes suddenly flared on the altar. My translation spell flickered, exposing a horrific ancient truth. "Sacrifice 8 iron souls to wake the Lord." My heart hammered against my ribs like a trapped bird. 8 captains were in the room, 8 souls of the price. It was a setup. Then the first body dropped. I did not even have time to yell. A wet, tearing sound echoed as George looked down in total shock. A silver blade was buried in his ribs. Father Alex stood behind him, smiling like a holy psychopath. He twisted the steel out slowly. "Rest well, brother. Our Lord needs a little blood to wake up. Dust to dust." The priest whispered. The first debt was paid, and the air turned bone-chillingly cold. George's crew got wiped in a heartbeat. The Alliance was dead. Alex cleaned his blade with a white silk rag. "Gentlemen," he called out, "only the winners get the gold. This is God's design for the strong." His 9 knights closed in, their armor glowing with a holy light that felt like a death sentence. This zealot wanted to hunt us down. I was not going to end up in his collection. Rex roared in rage while Viper vanished into the gloom. "The priest is right." The snake hissed. "Only the strongest walk away." The deal was over. I pulled my girls into a tight, defensive corner. Zoe raised her shield, Luna vanished, and the dragon hissed. We were ready for the bloodbath. As long as we held the line, they kept their distance. A brutal melee erupted, steel clashing everywhere. The tome filled with screams. Rex got caught in Alex's blinding swordplay, getting carved up until he fell. The Viper was picking off the weak like a scavenger. Soon the 4th captain died, and the altar drank deep. Crimson tickers bled as the vault burst, exposing a hollow, debt-choked core. The chaos took shape as a heartless auditor with hair like iron. A black swan arrived, the market's ultimate liquidator. She was legend. Chilling dread gripped my heart. Done resist. "The raid is live." Someone shrieked. It was over. Digital alarms screamed. Rex, our lead, hit the floor as 40 years of work evaporated instantly. Alex and Viper flinched while Sophie hunkered down. We braced for impact, but the juniors simply crumbled. totally broken. The Reaper targeted Rex, draining his life and bank accounts dry. He shriveled as she consumed his empire to fuel her own. A 5 board members gone, this was no longer business. It was a massacre. Then her freezing gaze shifted to Saint Alex's righteous mask finally shattered. You monster, I will sue you in the Lord's name. He stood tall, faking authority, his secret weapon. Total legal immunity. The preacher had a hidden shield. The liquidator struck, hammering a lawsuit into his chest. Boom. Alex took the blow. His mahogany desk turned into dust. He skidded through the ruins, but managed to stay upright. His value tanked 20%. Leviathan, he roared at me. Help us, use your code to bury the files. He charged like a madman, but then suddenly, he pivoted, dumping the entire scandal onto our shoulders. He was framing us. A death sentence. Zoe froze. I didn't flinch. I had orchestrated this whole thing. The bubble popped, plunging the room into total darkness. A shockwave hit the office like a tactical bomb. Alex took the impact like he'd been leveled by a freight train. His golden parachute burned to ash. The director hit the street, weeping in the debris. He gasped for air, his world completely lost. Nearby, Viper stared blankly, his mind totally broken. In that wrecked boardroom, we were the only survivors, and the nightmare turned, locking her hollow eyes on mine.